Okay, how do we start jogging? What's a good way to start a jogging routine if we've never done it? You're going to find out more at the end of this video, but I got to tell you a little story. First time I ever heard about this was a friend of mine, Lou Casavina. This is back, I want to say, mid to late 80s, and he was starting a jogging program. And he had never really jogged. I had jogged somewhat, but I wasn't a crazy runner. I mean, I didn't do high mileage. I never did a 10K or a half marathon at that point. But I did enjoy doing it. It was a form of exercise. Did it. So we went out with Lou. We kind of warmed up. We did a little walk before we started, and then we jogged for about, it's been 3 to 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he stops. And I go, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to walk a little bit, get my breath, and then start again." And he generally would walk for about a minute, and they would resume again. So it was kind of one of those things that was a great way. I said, wow, that's a great way to kind of start a jogging program without just doing all the jogging and just stopping at whatever point you can't do it anymore. It was kind of cutting it up into little slices, and it really made a big difference. I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I never really thought of that. And I think at this time right now, with everything going on with the coronavirus and all that, we're kind of limited to what we can do as far as gyms and things like that. So I think this is a great time to try and maybe start a jogging program. We don't have access to an elliptical, a lot of us. We kind of relied on the gym for all of our equipment. So why not take this time and maybe start a conservative, walk jog program, and go ahead and start out. Hopefully some of us have some pretty good equipment. I mean, you're starting a jogging program. If you have past injuries, you haven't really done a lot of physical exercise in the past, sometimes you may want to consult with someone regarding starting the program. Even do a telehealth visit with your primary physician or your physical therapist if you've had injuries, and just give you some feedback on, is this something I really want to start right now? Because the last thing we want to do is get into an injury right now. During this period of time when we're kind of homebound and we just don't want to have something else we have to deal with. So consider that. So some of the things to kind of think about is getting kind of some loose, comfortable clothing, especially if you're going at night. Get something like a little flashlight or something like that with you, so if you're jogging a little later. Decent pair of running shoes if you have it. Amazon is still delivering, so why not do that and get a decent shoe. A lot of the good shoes that are considered supportive shoes. Is like a New Balance or Saucony. There's other ones out there, Asics, that have some pretty good brands out there that you can look at. And you could probably talk to someone online, and there's probably some efforts to try and figure out your sizing. One of the big things is we haven't purchased a new shoe in a while. Our shoe, especially as you get into your 50s and all that, your foot may be changing a little bit. You may need a slightly different shoe that you needed maybe even 10 years ago. Just some kind of things to consider. As you start your program, start with reasonable goals. Don't overburden yourself that you're going to have this failure, like you have to do what you set out to do. I typically like 3 to 5 minutes, a little walk, get a little warmed up. Try and start on some flat surfaces, some flat roads around here if you can. Maybe do 2 minutes of a light jog, comfortable, good arm swing, and then stop for a minute. So do 2 minutes on, 1 minute off. Maybe shoot for 3 times. What I want you to have is some success. Know that you can move more than you have. You're kind of scared to jog. Start out real small. I think a lot of times in our exercises, we kind of look for what we did in high school or what we did maybe 10 years ago when we did a 5K, and we try and reproduce that, and we get hurt or discouraged or feel like, oh gosh, I just can't, I'm just not in shape, I can't do this. So don't get discouraged. So look at comfortable day, nice day, flat surface, nice even road. If you can get yourself a heart rate monitor to get a sense of where your heart rate is, getting a resting heart rate, to start out, which we can talk about a little bit, see where you're at and set some goals. One thing that's a great barometer of you getting better as far as cardiovascular wellness is cardiovascular health, is to get a baseline heart rate. A lot of people advocate, and there's a few different formulas, is just to sit down as soon as you get up, sit down, wait for about 5 minutes before you've had coffee, you've started really moving, any kind of activity. Sit there and record your heart rate. You can do it a few different ways. You can take it off. You can take it for 60 seconds, just time where your heart rate is. You can, get your hands in here and try and get your little heart rate here, right over, and get your pulse here, or you can get your pulse kind of in the side here of your neck. or you can go off some of your heart rate monitors that and just kind of record what was your average at that point. They'll say, oh, you've been at 60 beats per minute for the last 5 minutes. We'll get an average. This gives you something, But try and do it before you do anything. You eat, if you have coffee or any kind of activity, sit down right in the morning. You have to do it every morning, but you can start that to kind of get a sense. Okay, over 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, is my resting heart rate getting lower? Are we beating? And that just means the heart is beating a little bit more efficiently. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it gives you something that's very objective, your heart rate, to see if you're seeing progress. In addition to seeing that you're actually jogging a little bit further, instead of doing 2 minutes of jogging, 1 minute walking, now you can do 3 minutes of jogging and a minute of walking. But these are great ways to slowly increase your program and really have some success. Listen, if you've had some past injuries in the past, some joint problems, you've got to be aware of that. I do expect some muscular soreness. As you improve, you're going to have days where you have to recover. I would suggest the first week, shoot for 2 days that week. You can walk maybe on the off days, but let's say on a Monday, then take Tuesday and Wednesday off, and then do a Thursday. It's a great way to kind of progress. Have enough recovery in between. You can do other things, but just kind of see how your body reacts to it. If you have any kind of joint swelling, let's say your knees, your ankles, hips, lower back, you may have to give a little more recovery, maybe do a Monday, Friday. But just listen to your body. At a certain point, if you're getting to a point where you're not progressing, you may need to incorporate more of a rest. Maybe you need 2 minutes on, 2 minutes jogging, and 2 minutes rest. But let's not give it up. There's, a lot of the things in exercise, and I talk about this in the past, is all about the dose. How much is the right dose for your body? Some people that have a lot of, let's just say, extra weight, their BMI is really high, they really can't start this, even a walk jog program. They really have to reduce their weight prior to doing that. They can do other forms of exercise, but they can't jump into even jogging. Jogging is just too much on their joints, and they have to really do, get the old bike out, get some repairs on it, or do something else, or just keep on walking. Sometimes people say, well, I don't get enough out of walking. Throw a backpack on, throw a couple, Poland Spring bottle water bottles in the back or something to add some extra weight. That'll make it more challenging. You're increasing the load, and not many people do it. Some people use these weight vests for walking. And as you get better at that, you do some hills, then you go back to the same walk-jog program, maybe 4 to 6 weeks after you've been adding some weight. You gotta be a little careful. Don't add a lot, like 1 or 2 pounds to start out, maybe 3 or 4. A little bit in a walking program, especially if you start incorporating some hills, it could be challenging and kind of challenge your heart rate. So, as I always said, I just want you to move a little bit more than you did before. You can do various types of formulas with this. Love to have you throw something in the comments as far as what you've tried or your questions you may have about this. But don't give up on the idea of jogging, and if you really want to do it. There are certain people that, you do a bunch of things, and for whatever reason, they can't tolerate that, and you may fall into that. But I'm not convinced. I think a lot of times we're just progressing a little too rapidly. We're thinking about where we were in high school and what we did at that point, or even 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And maybe we have to take some more baby steps before we jump into that full program. But I really think you can get, you can get to that. And if you can't for a while, you just improve your walking, and that's, you just want to walk, and that's your goal. That's great. If you want to jog, I think there's ways and there's approaches to take to get you there. Okay? I hope this helps you out and inspires you to get out and jog a little bit, move a little bit differently. Be fun, just do something a little bit different. That's one of my other mantras in exercise, is try something a little different from the same thing you're doing, okay? And that just invigorates you mentally and hopefully physically as well. All right? Have a great day. Hope this helped you out. Start a nice walk, jog, walk program.